Hello, Nicola, and welcome to the Fluent Reads podcast. Think
Hi, Mark.
uh,
Thanks for having me.
great. So basically, we're going to start off with an icebreaker. All right. I'm going to give you. It's called
Okay.
the word association game, and I'm basically going to give you three words. You're going to tell me the first word that comes to mind, and this is going to be related to either the book or personal and professional development in general. Okay. All
Yes,
right.
let's do it.
Okay. All right. Let's start. So, the first word is active listening.
Active listening, growing, I would
Okay.
say. I would
Okay.
say growing because by listening, it's the best way to grow through learning and actually listening to other people's experiences. I often tend to speak too much and don't listen, so active listening is growing.
Okay. All right. The next word is nonfiction books.
Non-fiction books, self-development,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's the main topic that I read as a non-fiction books. It's what started me with reading English books. Yeah,
Okay. All right. And the last word is creativity.
creativity, part of us,
Okay.
in the sense that we all are creative in some way. Just some of us don't believe that or find that out, but it's a part of us.
Okay. All right. Okay. So tell us why you like reading nonfiction books like The World of Art in English.
Yeah, so I like to read these kinds of books because they allow me to learn from other people's experiences. I heard someone saying that by reading books you can live 100 lives at a time, or learn in the easiest and less painful way through other people experiences. So that's why I love reading and these books, and especially in English, because yeah, I can live other people's life, interesting lives, meaningful ones. So yeah, it's a way to expand my reality.
Okay, perfect. Tell us a little bit about your reading experience in English, these nonfiction books.
Sure. So my experience now, and how it started, I started reading English books at the university more consistently, let's say, or more regularly, because I was interested in some topics. I was watching YouTube videos and find out these books that were all in English, or I was curious to know more. So I started there, and now I'm reading almost only, yeah, mostly physical books. And still, I like the paper, the feeling of the
Hmm.
paper, and taking notes in the books. Sometimes I read on a Kindle and on my phone, even if I don't have the Kindle. But yeah, I prefer physical books, but I'm always thinking about maybe I should definitely switch to just the Kindle or some electronic one. And yes, apart from books, I also enjoy reading blogs or newsletters. Yeah, these
Hmm.
days many people are sending interesting newsletters, so it's a bit, yeah, spread between different things.
Okay. Okay. All right. Very good. And how do these type of books, these nonfiction books in English, help you for your own personal and professional growth?
Hmm. Yeah. So as I was saying, I started because I was interested in some topics, and I could only find in English. So the first impact was that it allowed me to really learn English. I was living in Italy till that point, and I was not practicing English that much. I was just not using it. So by reading, the first impact was that I started to learn English in a more meaningful way. And then the magic that happens is that it opens to you all kinds of doors, right? Through English and books, I get to make all kind of experiences. So working abroad, and meeting people. I was
Okay.
able to speak with people about these topics that I was reading. So get do meaningful connections with people, and also on the professional side, of course, being able to work in an English environment, and contact with people. Something amazing is that I can just go online and write to get in contact with someone that I like, that I want to know more about their work or what they are doing, and I can just write to them, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
All
was
right.
a big shift.
All right. Great. Great. All right. So we're going to move on to the book. Today we're going to be talking about The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Can you tell us a little bit about this book?
Sure. So this book, The War of Art, and I would say the it's a war against resistance. Stephen Pressfield talk in this book about a lot about what he calls resistance. That is this force inside us that wants to stop us from doing what we are meant to do. So it's basically his experience and his story going through life, and fighting back against resistance, and how he realized that he was finally able to express his own purpose. So it's a very practical book, in a sense that is divided in short um, chapters, I would say, but every page is almost a standalone concept. So it's easy to digest and read. Open whatever page you want, and you will learn something powerful in just a few words. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how did you come across? And how did you come across this book? Did someone recommend it to you? Did you find it online?
Sure. So, as you may know, like in the past maybe year, or for me in the past year, seems that everyone has been recommending this book, at least in my online bubble. So many YouTubers, or people that I follow online are have recommended this book at some point, even in podcast, like Tim Ferriss or Lex Friedman, or all these famous
Okay. Okay. All right. Very
podcasting
good. So what we're
and
going to
people
do now
online
is we're going
that I
to
follow were
we're going to
talking
dive
about
into
this, and from
your three quotes and
the
three
first moment
takeaways
that I
from the book. Okay.
heard about this, or I heard an interview with Stephen Pressfield, the topic were resonated with me a lot. So I finally bought it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now we're going to dive into your three quotes and three takeaways from this book. So let's start with the first quote. Resistance and procrastination. We don't tell ourselves, I'm never going to write my symphony. Instead, we say, I'm going to write my symphony. I'm just going to start tomorrow.
Yeah, I say that too many times. So
Okay.
this quote is quite important for me, as I struggle with procrastination, as many of us, but I struggle with procrastination. And when I read this, I realized, yeah, that's what I'm always telling myself, or the story, that goes inside your head. You come up with thousands of excuses, because of why today you cannot do that, this, and yeah, whatever things going on today, and each day. So it's always going to start tomorrow, and but that is one of the ways that Stephen Pressfield in the book describe resistance. So resistance will manifest as procrastination, always finding an
Okay.
excuse for you for not doing the work now.
Exactly. That's definitely something we can that we all have experienced in our lives. All right, we're gonna move on to the second quote. The sign of the amateur is over glorification of a preoccupation with the mystery. The professional shuts up. She doesn't talk about it. She does her work.
Yes. So this resonate with me because I'm in that phase where he was when he goes through his story in the book. So I'm still working full time as at a company, but I'm working to pursue my own project, my own project. So most of the times, often I got stuck in this glorification, or dreaming about, thinking about this side project, this pursuit that I want to go for. And yeah, I just idealize it. I think about it like in an imaginary way, or glorifying it. And it feels like a mystery, but not a reality. So
Okay.
while the right way to do it is just to focus on the thing that you have to do now and do it. So that's something
Exactly.
so powerful that I'm trying. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good.
You,
Sorry. Sorry.
no,
Did
I
you
was
have?
asking if you were saying that because you feel the same sometimes, or you
I've
felt the
experienced
same.
it. I've experienced it many times. For example, I mean, this podcast is actually an example of that. I thought about it, some time ago, but sometimes you get stuck in analysis paralysis. So you're constantly thinking about, well, I can't start until I do it this way, or when this happens, etc. And suddenly you just have to go for it. You're never essentially, I listen to a lot of podcasts as well, and I read books and nonfiction books as well. And essentially, everyone says it's never a right time. You're never ready, essentially. So you have
Hmm.
to start before you're ready, and then once you gain momentum, that's essentially where you start to learn, and you start to modify some things that you need to improve on. So I've definitely experienced it, and still experience it in other aspects as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The third takeaway, sorry, the third quote: "Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Begin it now."
Yes. Yeah. This is what you were saying, right? That you have to start whatever it's in your head. You can start it. There is nothing that really stops you, uh,
Mm-hmm.
just yourself and not getting started. And then when you start, when I make in my projects a little step forward, it it's definitely true that all sort of things happen, and you're like,
Hmm.
whoa, what, how this happened? Yeah, but it's
Exactly.
kind of magic, or
Exactly.
In the book, Stephen Pressfield talks a lot about these muses that helps you out, or the
Hmm.
watch you and see if you get the courage, or you put in the work, and they are there to help you. So whatever you want to picture that
Hmm.
force, that positive force, it's there. Something happened, but nothing happened if you don't start. Yeah. So I
Exactly.
always try to remember this. Mm.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, well said. We're going to move on to your takeaways. So the first takeaway that you have here is feeling so much resistance in pursuing my project is a good sign. It means it is what I love the most. Keep going.
Yes. So and trying to pursue my own goals and projects. Sometimes I feel stuck. I doubt myself. I'm
Hmm.
not feeling sure. So you are wondering, or thinking all sort of things, and most of the time I might think, yeah, maybe it's not the right thing, or this is simply not working. I'm not sure, blah blah blah, all these things going on in your head. And yeah, reading through the book, it says this, right, that it says that the most resistance you feel, the more sure you are that that's the right thing to follow. Because yeah, he has this concept that this negative force, resistance,
Hmm.
try to fight back the most, where he knows that you are trying to pursue your true passion, your true
Yes. Yes.
self.
Yes.
So yeah, you felt
Yes,
that.
definitely. No, I feel it. This is actually one of my favorite books. I read it a few years ago, and
Mhm.
I appreciated the simplification of naming what that was, which is resistance. And yeah, he does define it as the greater it is, the more you need to pursue it, because it's a sign that you should be
Mm.
moving in that direction. And that's why sometimes it can be difficult for us to do it, because maybe there's a lack of confidence. um, we're waiting for the right time. And this is why sometimes, whether it's reading other books, podcasts, or even having a community, whether it's virtual or in person, sometimes you need other people to kind of give you that push, or to help you facilitate the process. And this book, I think, is a good example of that.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, yeah, it's much easier
Mm-hmm.
when you see someone else going through the same thing,
Exactly.
or putting name to things. If you are able to
Exactly.
label something, yeah, you can find a way to to fight that, let's say. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it perfectly encapsulates that. Like it is resistance, because it's kind of like this push, and it's a it's a cocktail of emotions. Essentially, you can't necessarily maybe identify. Maybe it's a combination of fear along with other things, but even excitement, depending on what point you're at. But it's something, especially if you're, as you were talking about, side projects, any entrepreneurial like endeavor, things, whatever. You're immediately met with this. It's something that, how they talk about, if it were easy, everyone would do it. So the resistance is necessary. Um, yeah, it's necessary in a sense, because when embarking on a new project, or some type of endeavor, mindset is really
Mhm.
important. You understand what I mean? So I think perhaps this is kind of like the initiation of that process of, if you can't get past this, what's waiting for you is going to be much more difficult in some way. So I don't know, maybe that's the way I interpret that, the relationship with resistance, because it's not something it's a one-off thing, meaning that, oh, once you pass it the first day, it's easy selling. No, it's constant. Sometimes it's hourly, daily, monthly. You understand what I mean? It keeps coming back, and maybe with new
Mm.
tactics, to kind of new tactics, yeah,
Yeah.
to try to convince you,
I-
another way. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, he says
Oh,
that it never goes away. Yeah.
it never goes away. Exactly. Okay.
Mm.
Let's move on to the second takeaway. I'm not alone in the struggle, and it's normal to feel it.
Yeah. So this relates to what you were saying, that it's important to also have someone around, or a community, or people that
Mhm.
goes through the same thing, or a book. So uh, I thought about this because at some point he described his day, or a normal day, and it it was basically the same that happens to me, and so that was quite shocking in a way, or just good to see that someone goes through the same struggles, the same way of going through the day. And he was just describing a normal day, when you go through daily and mundane stuff, just
Mhm.
things, work you need to do, that is not fulfilling to you, or it's not what you know that you have to do. And uh, and then at the end of the day, you finally find some time to sit at your desk and do what you're meant to do, what you want to do, what you know that you needed to do from the beginning of the day. And
Mhm.
because of that, all that waiting, let's say, during the day, you're not feeling good, right? And you have this feeling, this pressure, this impatience, or unhappiness, something,
Yeah, it's a
this, yeah,
combination.
resistance.
It's a combination of things, and where there's a higher tendency to also make excuses. It's the end of the day, you're tired. Maybe tomorrow you don't feel like it, and this is why kind of like that
Mhm.
consistency, discipline is important in some way, and perhaps even dedicating 5-10 minutes. That's doing something. It's kind of like pushing the needle forward in some way. And I think that's more or less where
Mhm.
he where he's getting at in this book, because humans, we can be very creative in making up excuses of why we shouldn't do something, and this goes on and on. And this is why sometimes also, like, the community, or whether it's a friend or a podcast or whatever, it's important sometimes, most times, where we focus our attention. Because sometimes you can read a book or listen to a podcast or even talk to a friend, and you just feel rejuvenized afterwards. You feel motivated, and we all know that motivation, it fluctuates. It can be up here, and then in a few minutes or whatever, it can decrease. So it's kind of important to, if you can, to curate that experience, or even try to intentionally get that, like, on my way home, maybe I'm going to listen to this audiobook or this podcast, because it's going to put me in the right state, in the right mood to to
Mhm.
allow me to work on what we know we should be working on, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's see.
consistency is big.
Consistency, because it's basically the trick. It's kind of like the secret
Mhm.
is the consistency, essentially. And that's why, I mean, obviously it depends on the project that you're working on, but sometimes maybe we think we have to set aside so much time to do it, and that's one of the main reasons why we don't. Where we say, oh, I don't have an hour because I'm tired, and that's why we say, well, if I do 5 minutes, maybe based on the fact that you start those 5 minutes, it immediately increases to 15 or 20. You understand what I mean? It's kind of the biggest obstacle
Mhm.
usually is starting. You just have to start the process, and
Yeah,
once you start, you kind of you kind of get into the swing of things.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So let's go to your third takeaway. A pro focuses on the work, not the results.
yeah. So this is, yeah, another thing. Um, Kind of, we were talking before that. Um, Many times I just focus on what I want to achieve, and maybe I over glorify it, or just thinking about what I can do, all the possibilities, this and that, or all going on in your mind, and you're focused on, yeah, on the results because they get you excited, you want to get there, etc., etc. But that doesn't work. That doesn't lead you anywhere. You just need to do the work. He is saying this over and over and over. Basically, the the book can be resumed. Just, just do the work. It's not that difficult,
Exactly.
but
Do the work.
yeah, sometimes it
It's
is.
not that different. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's you're right. It's basically talking about
Mm,
doing the work. Turning pro essentially is to move out of the amateur stage, which that's basically what he defines as the amateur
mm,
stage. When you go into, I can't do this, or you come up to these limiting beliefs or other things, and he's saying, just you have to become a professional with this, and which basically goes into the consistency and how we have to create a practice out of it. Definitely.
mm.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. So we're going to so you read this book. You said a lot of people recommended this book on podcasts, in your circle, etc.
Mm.
And we talked about quotes and takeaways. For you, is there something actionable that you felt from this, or that you feel in general that he gives that we haven't mentioned, like actionable advice?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think in the case of this book, everything that we have mentioned is something actionable, something that
Okay.
I'm constantly trying to apply, and it's working a little by little every day. You need
Okay.
to put in the work. So yeah, that's the main advice, and all the book is an actionable advice. It's
Okay.
nothing. It's yeah. So. Yeah, I think we have resumed that. Just put in the work
Okay.
and focus on the things that you know that you need to do, and don't get distracted about other things. Do what you're meant to do.
Okay.
What you know that it's there, but you are scared to do it because it's
Exactly.
easier to stay comfortable in whatever situation you are. Maybe it's not that good, but good enough to survive, and it's easier to stay there. But no, you need to move
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
where you're
I,
meant to be.
exactly. I think perhaps another way of putting it is basically he knows, and we also know that this is intuitive. Deep down, we know kind of like the formula what we should be doing, but we need that extra push, and that's why it's important
Mm,
to to put yourself in an environment, a context to help facilitate that process as much, because we have so much internal and external resistance that can prevent us from moving forward in almost anything. Definitely.
yeah.
This while reading this book, was there anything you came across that perhaps helped you improve your English, words, phrases that you can think of?
Yeah, what I was thinking about, it's his way of writing.
Okay.
I really enjoy it. Is clean, succinct, short, and straight to the point.
Okay.
Most of the pages is like not even a full page, but all that all that is needed is there in a few words. in an elegant way. So what I was fascinated about, what I liked, and what I'm trying to learn is
Okay.
his way of writing. Yeah,
Okay.
and then apart from that, he he makes some reference to golf, to Tiger Woods, or other things that. So maybe I learn a new. A few things there, as I don't know anything about golf, so I've
Okay.
learned a few new words there. But yeah, the most important thing is the way he's writing. Something
Okay.
that
Okay.
I'm trying to learn for myself when I write.
Exactly. It's clear and concise and you straight to the point. Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay. Who would you recommend this book to and why?
I would recommend it to anyone who feel unhappy or unsatisfied, who is going through life without really touching on those deep pain points. Maybe someone who has a normal life and convince himself or convince himself that that's just fine, that you are not supposed to reach for something more.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so
Okay.
someone who is in that situation, who is putting away, putting on aside his dreams or whatever he wants to do, this
Okay.
book is the right one.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Or
Although,
yeah,
sorry, continue, continue.
now I was also thinking someone who is in this situation, or someone who has started already something, or who is in the process of starting something, but is struggling. It's the first time, as for me, and this book really helps
Okay, okay.
to
That's
create something.
okay, great, great, great. Yeah, this book is definitely useful. Although the title says, the war of art, it's not for only
Mm,
artists, for example. Sometimes it can be interpreted that way.
yeah.
Yeah, anyone who may want to embark on a project, or I think it's important simply, what we talked about, the resistance, to give a name to this, to kind of like simplify this thing that you're experiencing. We all experience it, and we're going to call it resistance. So I think simply
Mm,
um, coming in contact with that through his work is extremely important. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the last
for
part. What advice would you give someone for who wants to improve their English through reading nonfiction books like this? They may not read so often. They may want to read more. From your perspective, what advice would you give
mm,
someone who maybe has an upper intermediate level? They want to improve their English as well.
sure. What worked for me was to find a topic that I was interested in, and I really wanted to know more. And so in that way, it was easy and enjoyable to start reading English books, and that helped me a lot. So yeah, find a topic that you are really interested in. Whatever it is, doesn't matter if it makes sense for anyone else. Just something that you enjoy, and go deep inside that rabbit hole, inside that topic,
Okay.
and read whatever it's interesting for you. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think sometimes, I don't know, here in Europe as well, through school and regular system, let's say,
Hmm.
maybe you end up reading English books only on things that you're not really into, you're not interested about. So that's quite boring, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense, as there is so much great stuff to read. just pick what you enjoy, what's meaningful for you.
Exactly. I think that's great advice to find something that you're interested in, and the rest just takes care of itself. Yes. Okay. You gave me your top three books. We discussed the War of Art, but now you're going to briefly discuss
Mhm.
the two other books that you chose, and you can give a brief, summary and why you would recommend these books. Also, the first one is Blue Ocean.
Yes. So Blue Ocean on, yeah, slightly different topic. So Blue Ocean talks about how to find uh, ideas for products or services that open up a blue ocean in contrast with a red ocean full of fears, full of competition, and full of other companies beating each other down to the price or other um, other characteristics. So this book describe how to find a new how to create a new value for customers and
Hmm.
businesses. So it has all kinds of tools and ideas that I find really original to unlock new value in a product or a service. And I like it because I get so frustrated when I see products that doesn't work, in the sense that they don't make sense for the customer, for the users, for the people. And I love so much when I see a product that really create value for everyone. And this book is great for that.
Okay. All right. And the other one
Mm.
was Rework.
Rework, yeah, another book that I realized it's quite similar in the structure to War of Art, in the sense that it's a short book, and each page is a lesson, a short one, very succinct and to the point. And the topic of the work of the work of the book is rework, in the sense that we need to change the way we work inside companies, especially inside corporations, big companies, where work doesn't really make sense. So the authors of the book, as a company where they do things differently
Mm.
from the beginning, and they focus on, again, doing only activities that create value for the customer, for the user of the product, and make sense for the people working there.
Okay.
So yeah, just cut all the activities that doesn't make sense, like
Okay.
staying all day from one meeting to the next without time to do meaningful work.
Okay.
I think that's also a type of uh, procrastination inside companies.
Yes.
Like companies create this structure or this way of working where you just go from one thing to the next, and you never really do the actual work that you are supposed to
Hmm.
do to create a great product.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And this brings us to our last question. It's a hypothetical question. If you could
Mm.
write a book on any topic, what would it be and why?
Yeah. So I think it will be around the focus and something related to what we have talked till now. But focus and the lack of focus for me is something I've always struggled with, or try to improve. And it's a topic that uh, it's there since the start of history for for
Okay.
everyone. This that quote a man would be happy when he's able to spend 1 hour alone in an empty room.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, that concept relates to as well. So yeah, maybe a book on focus and my experience with that. uh, in fact, I'm writing right now something related to focus, not a book, but
Okay.
I'm starting I'm starting my newsletter. Is
Okay.
one of the side projects I was postponing, or yeah, fighting resistance for quite some time. But now I'm
Okay.
there, almost done writing the first one, and yeah, and I'm talking about focus, how
Okay.
I try to improve my focus, stay stay focused in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
So we often hear about laser focus, like put all your energy and effort and laser focus on something, and that doesn't work for me.
Okay.
So I'm learning about how to focus in a more calm way. Tap into your inner focus and be able to stay focused with low energy, with low effort. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck on that project. I'm glad that you finally started working on it with the newsletter. So the book has served its purpose.
Yeah, of course. So I'm rereading it now because I need that reminder.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Okay. And if before we finish up, do you have any questions for me, Nicola, about maybe reading English or anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, maybe sure. I'm curious. What do you think about our ability to read now? In the sense we are also used to read tweets and posts and a few characters here and there, and
Okay.
I feel the struggle to read a full book, to find the time or the energy.
Hmm.
Yeah, because on one side we are conditioned to read just short content. On the other
Mm-hmm.
side, we were taught at school that a book is like you must read it through all the book. If you start a book, you need to finish it. So we all get stuck in a book. Oh, I'm yeah just reading that book, but I cannot finish it.
Exactly.
So yeah, what's your experience like?
My experience, I'll give two answers. I'll say one maybe personally and one maybe in general. So I love reading books. I primarily read nonfiction book. I think as you go through the reading process, it's all about personalization. So you kind of get a sense of what works for you. What I mean by this is we are taught in some way you have to read a book cover to cover, but this is not necessarily true.
Hmm.
Sometimes in the first, second chapter, if it hasn't, if you're not hooked in some way, maybe the book's maybe not for you. It's also important to think about. It's really important to read the topic of the book. Sometimes a book, you pay for the book, and I've personally experienced that paying for that book, maybe the entire book was useful, maybe a chapter was useful, or sometimes maybe a sentence I needed to hear was useful. So sometimes you have to dig deep, or sometimes um, you enjoy the entire experience. And that's why I said it's personal. No one can essentially tell you that you need to read all the book because I loved it. Sometimes when how you have friends and they say, "Oh, you have to watch this show on Netflix. You have to watch it," and maybe you may not like the show so much. So reading is a personal experience. I personally find it a bit therapeutic because I do spend a lot of time in front of a screen, for work, having meetings, classes, things like that. So having the physical copy is kind of a way to, to relax a bit. At the end of the day, I usually take, my have my post-it notes and highlight my parts. And I usually reread books also. It's the good ones. It's important to reread frequently. And to answer the other part, it's true that we're living in a society with we have a more and more we have a shorter attention span. So a lot of the social media things um, is set up for short form content. So which is useful in many ways because instead of you know watching something for minutes or hours, etc. You're just getting those key points there. But also, it probably has a negative effect because you're reading the book and maybe you're getting a notification on your phone, so you constantly have these different distractions that are going on. So it's important to kind of you to mitigate that in some way. Again, it's a personalization of for each person. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I agree. We need to find our own way and don't let the someone else or the rest influence us.
Exactly. It's the sweet spot. We refer to it as the sweet spot, which
Mm.
you're maybe never exactly in that sweet spot, but you acquire it through time and through your own experience. Typically, in my experience, and I've met other people who share similar experiences, we tend to find time for things that we want to do. So if we really want to do something, if we want to
Mm.
read that book, if we want to watch that show, if we want to go to that concert, we find ways and time to do it. You understand what I mean? So reading the reading process, it's true that everyone doesn't like to sit down and read, a two, three, 400 page book that can take between 4 to 10 hours, um, depending on how long it takes you. Maybe you prefer like an audiobook, which is fine. Sometimes even readers look down on
Mhm.
people who listen to audiobooks, but in the end, it's kind of I personally think that there are a lot of people who value the information, the knowledge that's in the book, but there's friction in actually opening it and reading it and having that consistency that we're talking about. But the information that's there, the nuggets, maybe a chapter, an idea, a concept, most people are interested in this. And this is why I think it's also important to share. I mean, this is what we've been doing for the past 40 minutes, essentially just talking about this experience, etc. And maybe there's an idea, a takeaway that someone's like, oh, I'm going to pick up that. Sounds quite interesting because they've connected or identified with something. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Great, great. Yeah, that's great advice.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Nicola, for your time sharing with myself and the Fluent Reads community. And all the best of luck to you with your future endeavors, the newsletter, and whatever is to come soon.
Thanks to you, Mark. Was amazing to talk with you, and yeah, I hope this book might help whoever decided to pick it up.